Hey guys, it's Quinn, and in honor of Daniel Craig stepping down as the sixth official James Bond actor, today we will take a look at some of the best moments in his four Bond films. This is solely based on what I believe to be great moments in the Bond series. In no way really is it a ranking of how well made the scene is, or even if it necessarily contributes anything substantial to the film. A lot of these do not. When you look back at a film, there are little bits and pieces that always stand out, and in the context of a long series like Bond, there are particular bits that just feel like highlights of the series. These are those highlights. I like to use the laser scene from Goldfinger as an example because even though on paper not much really happens, and there are definitely more impactful scenes in other films, I think most all fans can agree that that is the best scene in the franchise. I'm using that same logic for this list, so let's crack at the top 10 Daniel Craig James Bond moments. But of course, in true list fashion, we have to have a few honorable mentions, and these were really tough just because I literally had an infinite number of choices for this one, but I went with the Austrian complex bit from Spectre, Bond jumping from one train to another in Skyfall, and M's death also in Skyfall. The former two are great just because they're really just cool scenes where Bond does what he does best. And M death, although it was really being built up to happen the entire film, it was a really touching scene for an actor, well, actress who's been in the series for so long. It reminds me of Desmond Llewellyn's last bit in The World's Not Enough. Just a good send-off. Anyways, on with the show. Number 10, Le Chiffre's Hotel Room Casino Royale. This pick is really a culmination of everything that happens in this section of the film, which includes what I think is the most interesting bit of spy work we see Bond do since the beginning of the film, with him using an earpiece to listen in on Le Chiffre. And although the stairwell fight is fantastic in its own right, it only ever occurs because of the creepiness of the scene that precedes it. The reason it makes the top 10 is because it says so much about every character involved without much, really, if you get down to it actually happening. You find out right from the get-go that Bond really just does not care about anything except for beating Le Chiffre, and that Bond thinks of him more as an object to defeat than as an actual person to care about. And what is great is Le Chiffre thinks almost the exact same thing about the girl he's with, and the girl feels the same about Bond, as evidenced by her poisoning him. A scene which, by the way, barely missed the list. So really you just see how horrible everyone is that's involved, but you also find out that for the persona that Le Chiffre puts out on the poker table, he's actually more vulnerable than anyone. I know being a great scene doesn't necessarily make a great moment, but this one accomplishes both. Number 9, the Spectre opening gun barrel and first shot. When I eventually review GoldenEye, one thing I'm going to discuss heavily is the importance that a good gun barrel has on bringing you immediately into the film. And although this was by no means a gun barrel masterpiece, the fact that we finally have one at the beginning of the film was something that made me so happy that I blindly watched the first 5 minutes of the film, not really thinking about anything else. What is great about an opening sequence is that you have an opportunity to do something absolutely ridiculous to draw the audience in. Take Octopussy, for instance, but you also have the opportunity to have as much action as possible, but still relate it to the plot, like Tomorrow Never Dies, and Spectre does this very well. This opening scene really is the culmination of insane stunts, aka the helicopter doing a 360 over its back, or by having Bond change into a new suit in 3 seconds like it's a comic book hero. It's all stupid, and I enjoyed every single second of it. Many people hate Spectre, and, fair enough, but they hate it because they feel it's sort of like a campy Roger Moore film, but that's the very reason why I love it. This entire bit, especially the opening shot, is incredibly unnecessary, but it's fun, and that's the entire point of these films. So yes, in all of its Roger Moore Birdman parody, this scene is just fun and, in my opinion, great. Number 8, the crane chase from Casino Royale. It's not really a big secret why this one is here, so I'll keep it quick, but let me just explain it in this regard. When I was younger, I hated Casino Royale. Hated it, thought it was boring. But the one scene I've always liked was this one. You know why? Because it's absolutely insane. Explosions, crane jumps, Bond taking on a small army, an embassy exploding, M saying Bond is out of line again. It's all here and it's all fun. That's basically it. Number 7, missing the target from Skyfall. Very similar to the Le Chiffre scene from earlier. The reason I love this scene is because it is the only time in the entire series really where Bond's age is actually considered. Although they don't play with it that much as the film goes on, I absolutely love the fact that when he finally did come back from the dead, they didn't treat it as business as usual, but instead showed him genuinely struggling. I think part of what makes the later tower fight such a good fight was because Bond was given this handicap, and seeing him genuinely frustrated was an element that we hadn't really experienced since The World's Not Enough with his shoulder. But even in that film, it never really came into play, never really came into fruition. Whereas in Skyfall, they used the death of Bond as his subsequent injuries as a springboard for the rest of the film. Too often, Bond is shown as indestructible, so seeing him actually screwed up is refreshing. One of the reasons the Sean Connery films are so beloved is because Bond just gets his ass kicked, but pulls it out through being smart. Here, the exact same thing happens. He is completely down in his luck, but through his skill, he pulls things off. This determination is shown no better than in this scene, and that is why it is number 7 on my list. Number 6, the reveal of Raul Silva, Skyfall. With the exception of maybe Bond himself and Dr. No and Blofeld and You Only Live Twice, the reveal of Silva in Skyfall might be the best introduction of any character in the series. Similar to why I like the opening of Spectre, the use of the long shot forces you to focus on the only movement that is on the screen, which is Silva slowly but surely moving towards Bond. But the story itself that he tells is really what makes this scene so creepy and therefore memorable. This scene so well establishes the demented nature that is Silva, while also showing that he's channeling this massive craziness into the sole purpose of destroying M and MI6. The weird sexual tension that comes completely out of left field made everyone that I saw it with laugh the first time we saw it, but in the very same instant he flips like a switch into someone that acts like he'll kill you in any moment. I love how he uses this constant shift to always play a sort of good cop, bad cop with Bond. And in doing so, his character becomes something more than another bad guy trying to take over the world. It gives him purpose. It gives him power. It gives him that little edge that makes villains like Scaramanga and Zorin so captivating. But unlike those two, this character is all established practically in one shot. So credit where credit due for this moment. Number 5, the Bond James Bond from Casino Royale. I know it's like saying Goldfinger is the best Bond film. It's almost too easy of a choice, but this really is just the perfect ending, isn't it? It's a badass scene which somehow in one line surpasses the entire glory of the previous scene to it in the form of the collapsing house fight. Again, another scene that barely missed this list. I believe one of my first videos was a ranking of the Bond James Bond quotes, and I cannot remember exactly where I put this one, but I can assure you it's too low. It brought the oomph back for a franchise that sorely needed it, and if you didn't at least consider clapping at the end of this line, then mate, you're no friend of mine. Number 4, the train fight from Spectre. Maybe it's just because anything that reminds me of From Russia with Love or Jaws makes me happy, but I really believe that without a doubt, this is the best fight scene in the entire Craig era. If you don't think I'm right, then please tell me, but come on, it's the culmination of every single great train fight in the series, and there's been plenty. I'll go play by play here. You have the destruction that is Red Grant. You have the abuse of the Bond girl that is Teehee. You have the seeming indestructibility of Jaws, and on top of all of this, it goes down in a Goldfinger white suit. I mean, come on, boys. The movie might have been a little long, but if you weren't into this, you just don't like entertainment. But, I mean, seriously, as I said earlier, watching Bond get his ass kicked but somehow finding a way to bullshit it is the very calling card of the entire series, and they did it so well here that this scene will always stick out for me as the highlight of what I believe to be a very entertaining film in Spectre, and what I will always see as one of the best action scenes in the series. Number 3, the final poker hand from Casino Royale. I love poker. I love Bond films. I think Le Chiffre is whiny, so it's funny when he loses. All of this comes together in one scene, and it's beautiful. Especially if you're someone who really gets into poker like I do. This scene is without a doubt the most tense scene in the film, and yes, that does include the torture scene, and yeah, again, that one barely missed out. I think Calvin Dyson, though, put it best when he said that even for people who don't understand a lick of poker, you can just feel the tension in the room. The stakes are high. The room is practically silent. It's so well done that even when I was 6 and had absolutely no idea of what was happening, me and everyone else in the theater were completely focused on every single card flip. And I love the way Bond just always pushes in the chips with his arm. It's so cocky. I love it. Number 2, the opening scene from Casino Royale. I've reviewed this very scene before, and I know you guys want to hear the top picks, so I'll make this quick, but really, just what a way to establish your new Bond. Dalton's opening scene set him up as almost greater than life. Brosnan made it seem like he was an expert in the field, but Craig's opening just matches his portrayal more than either of those guys. It's 100% down in the trenches, dirty, ruthless, but at the same time, something that you'd expect from a pissed off Sean Connery Bond, the way the entire scene goes down. Having it in black and white was particularly brilliant because it literally establishes the very moment Bond turns into a 00, and my god, the gun barrel is just a thing of beauty, isn't it? But even though this establishes his character better than no other, there's truly no greater all-around Bond moment than our number 1 choice. Number 1, blowing up Skyfall from Skyfall. This scene literally brings together everything I've discussed on this list so far. This moment shows how truly deranged Silva is. It shows the fragility of M after so many years. It shows the cold-bloodedness of Craig's Bond, but most importantly, it shows more than any other scene how Bond truly is as a person. He brought M to Skyfall because that's where his roots are, but he's protecting her because he's a patriot. He also did it because he knows he's the best to protect her. That's why he went alone. But he also made a point of going with his DB5 because that's his pride and joy. And when that car gets destroyed by Silva, the pure rage that occurs and the sudden anger that he feels is what makes Bond his most entertaining, and I think true to the book. Everyone would agree that the opening scene of Diamonds Are Forever is what the entire film should have been like. Everyone can agree that Bond being pissed off and licensed to kill and Leiter was injured was such a refreshing development to see from him. But when Bond's longest pride and joy, his car gets destroyed, you see him go ham and just destroy absolutely everything in the way like he's a bulldozer. It's not only badass, but it's exactly what we should expect from this character who has had to put up with as much crap as he has all these years. It's the best scene by far in my favorite Craig film, and even if you absolutely hate the actor like I used to before he won me over in 2012, I think we can all agree that this is without a doubt one of the greatest moments in his tenure, and indeed is viable as one of the best moments in the entire series. So what do you guys think? Am I absolutely insane with my number 1 choice? Are you guys insulted that I didn't include Quantum of Solace yet again? Whatever it may be, leave it in the comments section below. And as always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for more James Bond and movie content. As always, see you guys next time. Ciao.
Bond, I need you back.
I never left.
God, that's so poetic. That should have been included, right? Should it have? No.